Jake Lloyd's mother, Lisa Riley, recently talked about her son's mental problems, and boy did that upset some of the Disney Star Wars shills, because what she said completely contradicts one of their favourite lies to push: the history of the toxic Star Wars fan. The Disney Star Wars shills really like to grasp at any defence for the horrible Disney Star Wars content, and I can see why. I too would hate to try and defend the garbage Disney stories that have reduced the once great Star Wars to a low-tier TV show that no one watches. It's far easier for the modern Star Wars extremists to think that there is a long-existing evil enemy that is behind the crash and burn of Star Wars. There is. It's Kathleen Kennedy, but they don't think that. No, the evil enemy in their heads is the horrible toxic fans. Because you see, the more evil the enemy, even if wildly exaggerated, the more righteous you can feel about yourself. Yes, the more righteous discussing a fucking movie. And if you go by their rules, anything can be labelled toxic.
There is not one line in this movie that you could quote with any pleasure. It is the most banal script I've ever read. It's just all about exactly what the plot requires them to say at any given moment, and the love story is just dead in the water.
I don't think it's dead in the water at all.
I didn't feel any chemistry between them, and as for the things that they say, those are ancient, tired romantic cliches from 1,000 other movies.
Well, this is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, so maybe they invented these cliches, and then Shakespeare got them from there.
Don't like the film? Toxic. Make a joke on X about a film they love? You're toxic. Expect a high quality product? Toxic. Children teasing classmates at a school decades ago, a practice that has gone on in every school since schooling began. Well, that's also the toxic fans' fault. A history of family mental problems. More toxic fans' fault. And all these problems with the toxic fans apparently started decades ago. Well, that's if you listen to mostly people too young to remember or not even born at the time. But these people won't listen to people that were actually there. No, they feel a lot better rewriting history to fit a narrative that doesn't rely on personal experience or evidence. It's just better to paint large portions of the public as evil-obsessed weirdos that stalked a 10-year-old than admit that they like a bad film. Seems bloody reasonable to me. The Disney shills like to think that the toxic fans were such a strong organisation that even the fact that social media didn't exist and pretty much the internet was just getting started didn't stop their international reach of harassing someone. How did the toxic society use social media before it even existed? Well, the shills never explain that part of their made-up story. And this is why I have the problem. This constant rewriting of history.
It was amazing. It was everything I thought it was going to be and more.
I think that little Anakin Skywalker, and everyone's going to say it, stole that movie.
Jake Lloyd, who played the young Anakin Skywalker in the Phantom Menace, has not had the easiest life, and sadly, recently he's been spending time in a mental hospital. In March last year, he had an episode on the way home from McDonald's with his mother. He stopped his car in the middle of a 3-lane highway and couldn't go on. Now, we've all had moments of clarity after eating McDonald's for dinner. Clarity that our life may have not turned out as planned.
How's the food?
But Jake is 35 and should be living his life to the fullest. But in what is a bad luck of the draw, Jake comes from a family with a history of schizophrenia, and he was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 2008. In the recent article, his mum explained that Jake was already having a bad day before the incident. There was a lot of yelling and screaming. The police got there and asked Jake some questions, and he was talking to them, but none of it made sense. It was all word salad. Don't let Lucasfilm hear that. They'll hire him as a writer. So far so good for the Disney shills. This breakdown sounds exactly like the work of the toxic fan society. But wait, Lisa then says she first noticed something was off with Lloyd and that he started having some trouble in high school. High school? This doesn't fit with the Disney shills' toxic fan history narrative at all. Lisa was also quick to debunk the rumours that Lloyd's mental health issues stem from the abuse his film, and not him I might add, has gotten in recent years. That word's important, isn't it? Recent. It would have happened anyway, Lisa insisted. I believe it was genetic, and his psychiatrist also agrees that Jake was going to become schizophrenic. Lloyd's mother also tried her best to shield him from toxic critics. Media critics. I protected him from the backlash. He was just riding his bike outside, playing with his friends. He didn't know. He didn't care, Lisa said. Everybody makes such a big deal about that, and it's rather annoying to me because Jake was a little kid when that came out, and he didn't really feel any of that stuff because I didn't let him online. And that's online to read what the media was saying. You morons. Despite everything, Lisa maintains that his son is still a die-hard fan of the franchise. People think Jake hates Star Wars. He loves it, Lisa said. He loves all the new Star Wars stuff. That would explain the psych ward. Jake loved filming Star Wars. He had so much fun, she added. I would love for him to get well enough to be able to do a little bit of something, and I'm sure he would maybe like to do that.
He is an amazing director, and he is the nicest guy.
So Jake's mum was pretty clear then, even stating that it annoyed her when people said it was because of Star Wars. So, how did the Disney shills respond to this article? Well, let's just say they weren't happy. A quick pause in this amazing video to thank today's wonderful sponsor, who I must say I've been using every day and loving it. Ridge, the game changer in everyday carry. If you've inherited the habit of carrying an old-fashioned thick leather wallet, well, stop it. That's like using a Nokia 5110 as your phone. It's time to join me in some back pocket freedom and get yourself a Ridge wallet. And Ridge is celebrating 11 years in business, which means up to a whopping 30% off if you shop right now. Ridge wallet comes in over 30 different colours and styles. I went with the Alpine Navy combination to go with my robotic eyes. And it's not just for the guys. Lady Robot is now rocking the 24 karat gold wallet key case combo.
Look, it fits perfectly in my clutch.
Did you say clutch? Ridge also makes matching key cases to complete the look. I can't tell you how much more comfortable it is slipping these in the front pocket instead of half a cow in the back pocket.
Look at this thing. You got more cow here than here.
Ridge wallet expands to hold up to 12 cards, plus room for cash, while remaining as slim as possible. The Ridge key case safely holds 1 to 6 keys, neatly in your pocket without digging into your leg. Over 3 million customers and over 100,000 5-star reviews can't be wrong. Plus, with Ridge's extended 365-day risk-free trial, you can send it back for a full refund if you don't love it. Go to ridge.com/robothead and get up to 30% off through to the 1st of April. Head over to Ridge today and treat yourself. Robothead says you deserve it. The OG Star Wars account recently posted about this article on X. Christ, X is such a stupid name. Anyhow, OG Star Wars was immediately attacked by people who love to mention how they hate the toxic fans, while the whole time being what they call toxic. It's quite the phenomenon. They also seem very annoyed about a girl maybe knowing more than them about Star Wars. It's all very toxic behaviour.
Because I can take this comment and wipe my ass with it.
In their meltdown and abuse, a lot of them decide to go with the old Jake's mum's quotes were cherry-picked and taken out of context.
You take screenshots of articles and twist it to suit your narrative and call it facts. Oh, so you're just a moron who will spin anything to push your own agenda and narrative. Got it.
They also suggested reading the article.
Post screenshots of articles that sound like they agree with her side of the argument, debate. But if you actually read them for more than 2 seconds, usually don't connect at all.
Yes, well, Jacob should have read the article for more than 2 seconds, because the whole article very clearly states that Jake didn't suffer at all from the fans. His only problem, which he himself has talked about several times, was that the kids at his school bullied him for just being in the film. As he said, they would make lightsaber noises around him. Yes, that's it. Man, I wish that was the level of bullying at my school. Sounds like a dream childhood. But that's not up to me to decide. Jake didn't like it. But besides that, his mum says Star Wars had a positive effect on him. But this didn't deter one of the more embarrassing Disney fans, our friend Jacob here. He quite arrogantly stated that the article wasn't even relevant, which is truly amazing.
Also, for what it's worth, OG Star Wars, or whatever their name is, always tends to act like the smartest person in the room, when in reality, they respond with statements or sources with next to no validity.
Yes, the quotes from Jake's mum really have no validity, do they? Because you see, Jacob is an expert on this subject and a really positive Star Wars fan who isn't interested in toxicity.
And what should you expect from this channel? Toxicity into toxicity?
We'll never forgive the most toxic Star Wars fans for how they treated Jake Lloyd after the Phantom Menace. Essentially, ruined his entire life. All because they didn't like him performing dialogue he didn't even write. So incredibly tragic.
And Jacob's response to Jake's mum's story is quite out there, to say the least. He denies everything she says. He also makes a compelling argument that he knows zero about the media, communication, and how the internet worked in 1999.
I'm getting increasingly more frustrated, confused, and heartbroken by people on this app trying to act like toxicity within a fandom doesn't exist when the prequel trilogy was originally released.
And when was that released, Jacob? In 1999. Hang on, let me work this out. Jacob's 26. So he would have been 1. Jacob was a literal baby when The Phantom Menace came out. Jacob, who was living off the teat and shitting his pants in 1999, is going to educate everyone on the zeitgeist of the late 90s. Okay, Jacob, tell me more. And also, if you could explain to me where this knowledge has come from, because I was there. I can fact check it for you.
It was the director George Lucas, and he slapped down claims that the film is rather average.
The people seem to don't understand that. They seem to think it's emotional and love it, and seem to get the story very well.
Yes, there was obviously negativity within the media about these movies, and sure, they also had their fans who were supportive and contributed to great memories. But to say that negative comments and outright hateful comments weren't made by people online that subsequently affected the cast, crew, and even George Lucas himself is insanely arrogant and ignorant.
By people online, he says. Whereabouts online did this happen? Because social media as we know it today didn't exist in 1999, you idiot. There were websites and a few chat rooms. Nowhere that the general public would stumble across, let alone a 10-year-old boy. MySpace didn't come out till 2003 and Facebook wasn't born till 2004. LiveJournal launched 2 months before the Phantom Menace premiered and maybe everyone raced to use that. No, they didn't. How did all these toxic fans make hateful comments online? What platform were they using? I'm thinking Jacob's story is already falling apart, but he goes on.
It was not just media backlash. The bullies and peers for someone like Jake Lloyd aren't affiliated with the media. They were people who didn't like a movie that knew one of the actors personally.
Illiterate!
Besides the fact that this paragraph is written in a way that makes little sense, and all of Jacob's claims come with zero evidence, Jacob's now saying that this large, powerful, toxic group was made up of people that didn't like the movie that knew one of the actors personally. What the fuck does this even mean? Is he referring to the school kids making lightsaber noises? What does that have to do with toxic fans?
Ahmed Best had his phone number leaked, not by the media, but toxic fans. He even had to deal with websites hating on Jar Jar specifically, made by fans, not media. Hayden Christensen was faced with brutal attacks from fans after his portrayal of Anakin Skywalker, with entitled fans believing that he destroyed something they held dear to their hearts, and cyberbullied Christensen in return. Again, not the media.
Cyberbullied? Now, just a little fact check here. Toxic fans can't leak Ahmed's phone number to themselves. It gets leaked to them, either by management, but more likely the media. That's what leaking means, Jacob. Not a great thing to happen, but it has happened to many, many celebrities over the years. That's why they constantly change phone numbers. And as for the websites hating on Jar Jar, fair enough. He's a horrible character. Ahmed Best, the actor, should know the difference between actor and character. And when did movies rise to the point where they can't be criticised? Ron Howard mentioned how, like any art form, movies are subject to public scrutiny in a letter he sent to Newsweek regarding the Phantom Menace, a letter blasting the media for the criticising of Jake Lloyd's performance. You'll notice in 1999, Ron Howard sent a letter. Didn't use the internet. The toxic fan society was really ahead of its time. And I should add, Ahmed has always said it was the media attention that got him down. The amount of insults he got directly from the public was less than I'll get for this video. And where did you get the impression Hayden was faced with brutal attacks? People at the time clearly understood who wrote the script.
George Lucas himself got a ton of criticism for the prequels.
Pretty much deserved.
But a lot of it was by toxic fans.
The people seem to don't understand that. They seem to think it's emotional and love it and seem to get the story very well.
Reviews were made online and treated like gospel, and documentaries like 2010's The People vs. George Lucas show this in full force. There's a reason why he hasn't directed a movie since 2005, even as going as far to say, why would I make any more when everybody yells at you all the time and says what a terrible person you are.
Yes, George deserved a lot of that criticism. Criticising art is essential in getting better art. And the first gospel review, as you called it, that people really took notice of was Red Letter Media's review that came out in 2012, 13 years after The Phantom Menace, when Jake Lloyd was in college. And Jacob, I can't tell if you're lying or just plain stupid. George has directed a film since 2005. He directed all the reshoots for his film Red Tails in 2012. It's also widely known that he doesn't enjoy directing. That's why he handed over the reins for Empire Strikes Back. Or was that because of the toxic fans again? Red Tails was a film that George was very passionate about.
I started on this around 20 years ago, and I just stuck with it. It's just been a project that I really wanted to do.
It was also heavily criticised by the media. The quote you are using by George was said after that film failed.
The bottom line is that of course there was media backlash. The media definitely had a say in how all of these individuals felt at the time. But so did toxic fans to a large extent. I grew up with the prequels and got criticised by older fans for liking and defending them.
So you should.
It sucked, but obviously can't even compare to what the cast and crew experienced, respectively. Prequel revisionism is still relatively new. I feel like ignoring this and acting like the entire fandom accepted them with open arms is just pretty ignorant and arrogant.
Illiterate!
No, my friend, the only prequel revisionism here is by you, Jacob. You who was literally a baby when The Phantom Menace came out.
The special effects, I thought Lucas did a really good job.
So intense. I mean, my heart was beating.
I think that little Anakin Skywalker, and everyone's going to say it, stole that movie.
I mean, I don't want to bag the movie, but I really didn't think I cared about the characters.
It had good effects. I'm not too big on the acting, but hey, that's just me.
Thumbs up or thumbs down?
God, I'd put my feet up if I could.
Thumbs way down.
You didn't like it?
No, I think I deserve a public apology from George Lucas.
I was kind of disappointing in the ending, but yeah, I gotta say it was worth the wait.
And sadly, while Jacob is just either stupid or a liar, some of his cohorts are complete nut jobs.
And if again your idea of okay is it didn't affect him, you have severe mental issues, drawing a line in the sand there, someone shoots a gun at you and misses, the intent was still there to do harm.
Jesus Christ. Fucking lunatics.
Overall, our informal survey of 19 people after the midnight show tallies up this way. 10 loved it, 7 liked it or thought it was okay, and 2 are no longer Star Wars fans. But even those who weren't thrilled say they had fun being part of the hype.
Jake's mum also said, people say he quit because of Star Wars. Well, that's not true. It didn't have anything to do with Star Wars. I'll just read that bit again. It didn't have anything to do with Star Wars.
Essentially ruined his entire life.
It had more to do with our family, and we were going through a divorce. Things were unsettled and kind of rough, and Jake didn't seem to be having a lot of fun auditioning anymore. She continued, Jake loved filming Star Wars. He had so much fun. It didn't have anything to do with Star Wars.
Essentially ruined his entire life.
The thing that these modern Star Wars fans will never understand is that life was completely different in the 90s. For a start, teenagers didn't behave like toddlers.
Where I talk about Bionicles, the Muppets.
In 1999, when you left the cinema, you didn't immediately jump on Twitter to feed your ego by spreading your thoughts about the latest film you'd just seen to your 20 followers. Now you'd walk out, ask your friends what they thought of the movie, laugh about the shit bits, and then head off to Pizza Hut for the deep dish pizza before trying to steal some of your dad's beer and maybe talk to a girl. And then the next week, you'd go see another film. Films that were often a lot better than the Phantom Menace. No one cared about 10-year-old Jake Lloyd or had any idea who Ahmed Best was. And the last thing anyone was going to do was try and contact them. We had cars, beer and members of the opposite sex to indulge in. But the modern Disney fans who collect Funko Pops, they don't understand that. They think it's always been acceptable to be a 26-year-old man-child. Take it from someone who wasn't a literal baby when Phantom Menace came out. We were too busy having fun to give a shit about a 10-year-old Jake Lloyd. And we weren't taking selfies hugging a child's toy.